Morning guys, I thought I'd do a scope this morning sitting in the park since I've got a bit of Beatblock creativity going on. So I'll see how long I can stand it out here. It's a bit chilly. So creativity, what is it? Well, basically when you get in the moment, you know, and you just got all those ideas and you want to stick them down, that's creativity. But then you get this thing called Beatblock, when you're trying to do beats and stuff and you just cannot think of anything to do and it's just impossible. Well, hey Dana, how you doing? Thanks for joining. One of the things that you can do is just get out. I'm actually just outside now, just been for a McDonald's. I'm just in the park, just soaking up some sun, just trying to get some inspiration for when I go back, then hit the studio and start to do some stuff. Another thing that I've been doing last couple of days has been playing jazz quite a bit. So on the old piano and stuff, or the keys and things, just get out, you know, some jazz standards and start going through them. Because ultimately, when you're making beats, you want to do that. What's that? We met last night at Dave's Scope. Maybe you forgot? No, I didn't forget at all. No. I was watching that. It was quite interesting. After I went off, he sort of disappeared. I was hoping that we could go further down the rabbit hole on that one. It was quite a cool scope. I don't know if you're keeping up with it, but yeah, it was good. So I'm wondering if he can, if he's actually worked out that the world is actually round and we do spin around. I wonder if he's managed to sort that out. But yeah, I look forward to his scopes. I think they're cool. I love it when he goes off on a rant. But I do get kind of worried that he drinks a lot. Every time he does a scope, he's always drinking, you know, and it's almost every day. So I hope he can sort of, you know, control that a little bit, because he's a nice chap, and I can see it sort of going on a downward spiral with his drinking. So I hope he sort of overcomes that. Anyway, back to the Beatblock. So yeah, just doing a scope, just trying to do something different. Another thing that I do is watch a lot of YouTube videos, you know, Dilla or whatever, or I'm from the UK, from near London. So yeah, it's nice, it's alright, you know, but like everywhere else, you know, you have your moments. There's bits that is really great, other bits that are not too good, you know, like most people as well. It's just sort of, you know, getting out and about and sort of being around other people that, you know, is interesting and stuff, and not always everybody's available. So scoping is quite a cool way around that. It's a bit therapeutic, so I can see why people get addicted to it and are always you know, scoping every 2 minutes, just talking about shit. But yeah, it's good. It sort of helps you work out, you know, through all the crap. But whereabouts are you from, Dana? Hey, Karzed Nara, thanks for joining. No, not at all. Go ahead, invite who you like, whatever, it doesn't really matter. I'm just in here shooting the breeze, literally. Just, as I said, just trying to get some inspiration for some music, for making some stuff, to then later upload some stuff to the internet. I haven't been uploading very much last few days at all, because of sort of the Beatblock challenge that we've got. Oh yeah, of course, you're in Kazakhstan. Yeah. What time is it there? It's about 1:30 now. It must be quite late there. What, 10 o'clock or something like that? Hey Cos, who are you, man? Well, check my profile and you'll see who I am. So yeah, back to the Beatblock. Yeah, YouTube's a great way of inspiration as well. Just check out videos and things, people that inspire you, people that you aspire to be or do something like that. That's always quite good. But normally my cycle is kind of strange. It's just the kind of person that I am with creativity. Normally get up quite early in the morning, you know, 7, half 7 or something. Hey Rome, nice for you to join. Get up at about sort of 7, half 7, and it's not until virtually the day's done, round about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, that I become inspired to actually just go into the studio and do something. So it is kind of strange how this whole creativity flow works. There is something out there on the internet, if you actually Google it, concerning sort of composers and music and how they worked and their creativity. And there's actually quite a lot of composers that they did a sort of a pie chart about when they're most creative, and it's quite amazing how it actually works, because there's a lot of people, it's not until late in the afternoon after they've been up for a while. And thanks, yeah, it's just growing, you know. It's just a few days, about a week, couple of weeks or something like that. It's more stubble. I just can't be bothered to shave it, really. And yeah, it's normally sort of late in the afternoon when people start to get inspired. Sort of the whole day's going, and once you get that inspiration, yeah, you've just got to get into the studio, and you've just got to put the ideas down. But it is really tricky to sort of work out when your creative time is. I mean, I'm quite fortunate because I've been looking at it, or sort of keeping a real eye on it the last few weeks, seeing when I'm at my most creative. And like I said, sort of around about 4 o'clock in the afternoon is great. The problem with 4 o'clock in the afternoon is shortly after I have to pick up my son from nursery, so that's a bit of a pain. You're sort of getting there. You've got about an hour and 10 minutes of solid focused work to actually do something, which can be really good, because in that hour and 10 minutes you can do a lot more than you can in, say, you know, in the whole day if you're just messing around. It's non-focused. Yeah, I'm from England. I'm from near London. So yeah. Thanks, Danny. Yeah, I'm not going for the Coop Awards. This is how it normally is, you know. Just like I said, I can't be bothered to shave it, you know. But I might go for a Dimmy Papa, or go for a Dave special and grow a really long one. I normally get bored and then shave it all off and end up looking like a little boy. Do I beatbox? No, it's not my thing. I make beats and things. I use synths and stuff rather, opposed to samples and stuff. You can hear that I'm from England. Yeah, the accent I think gives it away a little bit. That's alright, Scott, you're welcome, mate. Just ask any questions you want, you know. So, you do stuff with synths and things. What kind of stuff do you do? Yeah, Dimmy's great. I love Dimmy. Dimmy's funny. And Dave's the man. Dave is the man. I've been following him now for about a week. Actually, I've only been scoping for about a couple of weeks. But Dimmy and Dave are the ones that I watch quite a lot. Yeah, they're great. Again, it's that phenomenon of the scoping, you know, how people just watch other people talking shit, a bit like what I'm doing right now, you know, just sat down, just talking in general. Yeah, I'll follow you back, mate. Yeah, no worries. Yeah. So what kind of stuff do you do then, Scott? What's your style? So yeah, going back to this creativity thing, and about 4 o'clock in the afternoon and stuff. Ah, cool, developing a script, cool. So yeah, it's kind of funny. I tend to find that my creativity is, yeah, Rome, I might do a bit of a scope later on in the studio. Yeah, but once I get my ideas going and stuff, I might do something quickly about some beats I've been working on. Yeah, I'll look you up, Scott, no worries. Yeah, it's all good. Yeah, I'm just in the park, Rome. You've probably got that. I got a bit of Beatblock, so I'm just trying to get out to get some inspiration. I've been working on some beats and they sort of seem a little bit static right now. I like them, I think they're good, but I'm not sure if there's enough going on there. I mean, when I uploaded a few beats to We Do Beats, a couple of them got really slated for some unknown reason. I think it was just a few pussies there that just weren't ready for the beats, really. But in general, you know, they seem to be okay. But yeah, I'm sort of going through this kind of cycle. I've noticed that there's a cycle within the creativity as well, which is you'll go through a spate of mad creativity. You'll do loads of no, I'm not an Arsenal or Chelsea supporter. No, sorry, don't like any of those. Although I'm from that area, I don't follow those football teams. I used to be a Liverpool supporter, but more of an armchair supporter. I used to watch them on TV, but I haven't followed football properly for the last few years. Okay, Dana, I'll see you later. Oh, enjoy your dinner. But yeah, about the creativity, about the cycles. Yeah, it can be quite sporadic. I mean, when I do stuff, I can go through. I've noticed as well. Not only it's the time of the day, but also seasonal. Okay, bye. See you later, guys. I tend to do a lot of creative work around about October, November time, and then again around about sort of May, June time. That tends to be my sort of peak time. And I will literally go into the studio and I will write 2 or 3 albums worth of stuff in the space of a couple of weeks. It really goes like that, and then all of a sudden throughout the year it's just, you know, ebbs and flows, you know, things go, you know, quite manic and then sort of slow down for a few days, and then, you know, it comes back and stuff. But beat making, that's good, because you're only concentrating on predominantly anything between 2 to 6 bars at a time, and then sort of stretching that out to about 2.5 minutes, 3 minutes, sort of song kind of thing. So that stuff is going all the time. So it doesn't involve a lot of head work. What is difficult about beat making for me is getting a groove and not making it repetitive. You just keep it going and making sure that whoever you're targeting that specific beat to, which is important when you create a beat. You can't just make a beat and just go, oh, I hope, you know, somebody will like it, somebody will rap on it. I tend to think of who's it going to be for, you know. Is it in the style of, I don't know, Dr. Dre or something? And I think about that when I think of someone like Professor Green from the UK, which is very much like Eminem flavour. I sort of think about, you know, those kind of guys and the kind of flow that they have, and try and create a beat to see if, you know, their vocals, their rapping would fit over the top. With a beat that I'm currently stuck on at the moment, I did a scope a couple of weeks ago. Yeah, absolutely needs a good artist to complete it. In fact, the artist can actually make the beat, and vice versa. You know, if you haven't got a great rapper on there, if you've got a good beat, then it can really, you know, help the other one. But yeah, again, it comes down to the style and how they drop the bars, you know. Yeah, I have a SoundCloud account. If you check out MeekPoitier Conspiracy on SoundCloud, it's up there. But if you get a decent rapper that can drop bars, and they just drop them in at the right time, they don't have to be a constant monologue, but if they drop them in at the right time, it's as important as the groove of what you're trying to create, and that can really, yeah, check it out. You know, I do all sorts of stuff, not just beats. I do film scores and things like that, which I spend a lot of time on, which predominantly influences my beats anyway. It's just trying to do something a little bit different, rather opposed to the standard old school hip hop, which is, you know, create a drum pattern or something, you know, snare on the 2 and the 4, and then, you know, you normally got your bass, you kick drum on the 1, and then on the E of the 3 and 4 or something like that, you know, just to give it a bit of groove. Yeah, that's cool, Rome. I didn't know that. Yeah, I know Camille's into, he wants to do composition, doesn't he? So I don't know if he caught his scope the other day, Rome. I think he did, about his good news. So I wish him all the luck in that. A big shout out to Camellia, because I like him. He's a nice chap. You know, he's working hard for his stuff. I hope all his gospel thing goes through okay. But yeah, so all the film scoring stuff, I'm trying to bring that into the sort of the hip hop stuff and take it in a different direction, rather than just opposed to creating the beat and then just dropping in some samples. I mean, I have you know, I've been schooled in music, and that's great. I'm glad he's doing all right with that. In terms of dropping samples in, I'm kind of bothered about sample clearance and stuff. I know a lot of guys that do beats are not bothered at all, but that's fine, you know, until you actually try to sell your beats. And I know a lot of guys that are sampling, that are just you know, trying to sell the beats. It's just not clever, because you will get caught out with it. I mean, now you've got software like Shazam and things like that, that if you've got a sample, even if you try and mash it up, there's certain frequencies and certain things that they put into those things at mastering stage to identify the track, and if it picks up on that and it picks up that you haven't cleared the sample, it'll just destroy you. So I prefer to, you know, coming from a schooled music background, I prefer to create those samples myself. A good example of that is, I keep banging on about Portishead all the time, but they're quite a big influence in terms of what they did here in the UK for trip-hop and hip-hop. Hip-hop here in the UK wasn't really a massive thing, a big commercial thing. Trip-hop really is what sort of made that big, with people like Massive Attack, Portishead, Tricky, even to the point of Bjork did some kind of stuff like that, and that they really took that music to the masses. But what Portishead did a lot, and even Dr. Dre does, they had the samples, but then played the samples and recorded it to vinyl themselves. That's obviously because they had the facilities to be able to record stuff to vinyl, and then resampled the vinyl onto the MPC or onto whatever, and messed about with it that way. Then they didn't have to clear the samples. Because when it comes to sample clearing, what you are actually getting pulled up on is not the actual music itself. It's not the groove, it's the recording of that groove that you're getting done by, and it's the record companies protecting their turf, really. I mean, Funky Drummer, what we all know, we did the Funky Drummer Challenge up We Do Beats last week or so, and it's not the actual groove itself, because you could create that groove, you know, just slamming stuff in, but it's the actual sound of it. Yeah, absolutely. You've got to clear that business, and that's. I'm glad you brought that up, because I was looking the other day on Scope, and DJ Airwax, who's a producer, shout out to him, who I'm collaborating with in Edmonton out there. He was talking about, and even think I caught something on Twitter today about Jay Filtz mentioning about the gospel ghetto choirs and things. The sample packs sound great. There's some really great samples in there, but what people forget is that they're not royalty free. What you're doing is you're just paying for the sample pack, for the collection of the samples, and you still have to clear all those samples, which is a bit of a shame, really, because you spend all that time creating a beat. You've got that feel, that groove from that sample, which is an already recorded sound, and then you put that into your beat. And it means that if you're not clearing that beat and you get pulled up on, you get, you know, massive fines and things, and basically any royalties that, say if you manage to get hold of a rapper and he drops some great bars in it and you've got a real hit there and it goes viral, it goes massive, that potentially all that money that you've done just goes straight back to whoever owns the rights to that sample, and means that you will probably be fined on top of that for infringement of copyright for actually using the recorded work. Not necessarily the publishing rights, but the recorded work of it. So I tend to think of, well, you know, you might as well do your own music with a bit more patience and a bit more time. You can get something different, and it opens up different avenues and stuff. That's how I stand on sampling. But of course, having said that, if you're just using SoundCloud and things like We Do Beats for networking and just to show people what you can do, then I think it's a great quick fix for actually showcasing your talents and stuff. But I suppose we could argue, are you really showcasing your talents in producing a beat from scratch, or are you just taking an easy ride to churn out, you know, 100 beats in the space of a few days just by getting some cool samples and things? I suppose, you know, looking back at it, well, hip-hop was about all that kind of stuff, was about using other people's beats, and was because, you know, people couldn't play the instruments but could make new music from it. So I suppose, you know, it does stand to make sense that you would use other samples to do that, or other people's recorded work to actually make that, if you were being absolutely true to hip-hop. But again, what we've got to remember is that hip-hop started as a community thing. It wasn't a way of making loads of money. It was a way of getting the community together in the dance halls and, you know, having a good time, just basically remixing on the fly. Now, of course, when hip hop has become a lot more commercial now. You know, it's moved over to trap and things, where samples aren't quite so common as in, you know, traditional hip hop about layering, you know, some Barry White strings or some James Brown groove or something. It's a little bit different. It's sort of moved on. But yeah, where I stand with it, yeah, I still prefer to make my own samples. I mean, what that involves is I'll just play something on piano or something, or a bass line, and then just record it into the MPC. Yeah, it is really difficult to sample stuff, Rome. It really is. I mean, as I said, you know, I prefer to do mine, but I have had, you know, I do try to use sampling, you know, something off YouTube, or just sample off MP3s or something like that, and it's really difficult to pick that nice sample that you can chop up and you can use it, because if you don't pick the right one, or something that's not quite feeling the groove, then it doesn't matter how great the beat is in the back. If you haven't sampled the beat itself, if you're sampling strings and overlaying it to actually do something that's worthwhile, it sounds pants. And there is an art to it, and I certainly take my hat off to the guys that can just pump out, you know, beats after beats with good samples on it, and it sounds great. But yeah, it's a shame that you have to clear everything if you want to actually make money from it. But that's the way of the world. I mean, how would you feel having spent loads of time creating something completely original, where you've played the keys and you've, you know, played the drums, or you've even got royalty-free drum hits and things like that, and you've used it, and then someone comes along like Kanye West or Jay-Z or something, and then resamples your beat and uses your beat. You know, I think you'd be pretty miffed about that you weren't getting any payment from it. And that's the point of what, you know, the record companies say about being sampled and stuff like that, that, you know, although you're creating an original piece of music, you're still infringing on copyright for the sound that you've actually taken. So again, going sort of right back in the loop about, you know, how Portishead and Dr. Dre do their stuff, you know, they will recreate the sample. I mean, Dr. Dre, what he does is he uses real musicians a lot of the time, and he will say have a, I don't know, let's just talk, I don't know, I'm sort of just shooting the breeze really, but say he takes some string instruments from, say, from Barry White. He will just get, you know, a small piece, small orchestra, sample the bit that he wants, and then just get them to play exactly that back with exactly the same feel. So he'll pay money for people to do that, and then that way he gets around clearing the sample, and it is actually cheaper to pay musicians for an afternoon. Say you're paying about $1,000 or something to get a small horn section or small string section of, you know, 3 to 5 people to play some grooves, say replaying certain James Brown horn sections or Tower of Power horn sections or something like that, and you pay them that, yeah, but yeah, you might not be bothered, but you would be if they started making a lot of money from it and started to get fame from it or be recognised for their work. I mean, there's the story of, you know, famous soul musicians, or no, exactly. If they wouldn't pay you, you would be peeved. But that's the whole thing about sampling. Where do you stop? You know, if somebody did sample you without your permission and became famous from it and became known for that piece of work and never paid you for it, then you would be a bit miffed. It's the same thing with, you know, a lot of the musicians of James Brown and things, early funk and soul musicians, exactly, and no credits. They got paid money. For example, all James Brown musicians I mentioned before, they were on a wage, and they were fined every time they made a mistake, and a lot of the time they never got paid for stuff that's now famous because of the work that they did, but they were compensated in a different way. What up, Sip? Thanks for joining. How's it going? Just doing it. Yeah. There's some dog, you know, after it. It's not going to leave me alone now. But yeah, in terms of I sort of lost track a little bit, but in terms of the sample and stuff, so yeah, it's actually cheaper to get musicians to play and record those musicians to get that feel of exactly what it is that you want or what you're trying to copy or emulate, than it is to actually get the sample cleared. Last time I checked, for example, to clear a James Brown sample would say cost you like $10,000 or something for something for a small portion of it, for a few bars, and that is because firstly before you've actually even made any money on it at all. So you have to pay $10,000 up front for one speculative beat that you're hoping that somebody picks up and records over the top. And if you don't do that before they record over the top and you launch it, then you get done for less denser latest. So you'll get caught for the infringement, and then that'll cost you any kind of cash. But in terms of sort of what's that? I can see the credit part, so it will lead people back to me. No, exactly. That's really important. Is that to do with the credits and stuff? Yeah, you need credits and things, because you get points every time you play. I'll sort of get back onto the royalties bit in a second. But in terms of getting the musicians to do it, you'll probably pay about $1,000, I sort of mentioned, to get these musicians to record, for a few hours, say 6 hours. You end up paying, say, $200-300 per musician. A horn player or something like that. You only need 3 horns, so say you end up paying $600 to $1,000 for those horn sections. If you know exactly what you want to do, you'll probably be able to record 20 or 30 good horn samples that you can use in your beats. That will be cheaper than actually getting to clear your samples. And then once you've paid them, you never have to think about it again. You can just keep reusing those samples as much as you want. But in terms of getting it cleared, you have to get a sample cleared every single time you use on a different beat, and it can be really expensive way to do that. But again, sort of going back to it all, if you're just using it for influence, for inspiration or something, then yeah, man, just do it. Just sample everything and anything, but just remember, don't sell your beats without clearing your stuff. And you might end up paying more money to actually just clear a sample than you will to get back from that beat. You might sell a beat for $100-150, but it might cost you $10,000 to clear the sample, which it just doesn't justify it. But yeah, anyway, going back to royalties and stuff. You've got different royalties. You've got songwriting royalties, which is your publisher, which if you make beats, I would advise you to get in contact with a publisher. Now these guys are responsible for copyrighting your work, so how it sounds, what notes you use. You can't copyright a fringe. Put that on the artist to clear the sample. Yeah, but not all artists do. If you're the producer, then it's up to you to do that. You're producing the beat, you're overseeing the whole thing. It's up to you to do that. What a producer does is he goes out and finds those artists, and he basically raises them from the ground up, or he gives them a little bit of a push into one way or another one. Yeah, you can put it in a contract, but you'll probably find that most artists won't want to be linked to that. When a record company, unless you're a producer that works for a record company, then that's slightly different, because the contract then is between to have any samples cleared. Yeah, but if you work for a record company, it's different, because you're employed by the record company, and the record company will automatically be clearing samples anyway. But if you're working as an independent producer with an artist, the artist won't necessarily be pleased if you're just bringing out samples that he has to clear, because it becomes an expense to him. So you've got to be really careful with that. As well, it goes back to your royalties as well. If I was an artist and I was working with a producer, collaborating, Basically, I pay the producer to actually produce my work, make me sound better, make me sound great. A producer is responsible for making an artist commercial. Okay? Yeah, an artist picks the beat, and the reason that you work with the producer is so then the artist becomes successful. A producer has a lot of responsibility in that. He's responsible for making an artist #1. He's the one responsible for getting to the top of the charts. He's the one almost financially responsible. Well, he's responsible, or what's the word that I'm looking for? He's accountable. That's the word I'm looking for. He's accountable for the record company to make that artist multi-platinum selling, and it's the producer that makes that artist. Normally, if you've seen stuff, you see stuff on YouTube. You've got things like you know, great hits by Cher and stuff like I Believe, and there's stuff on YouTube where you've got the session singers go in and they sound almost exactly the same as the artist itself, and they record what they call the guide vocals, and then the artist goes in, say for example like Lady Gaga or something, or let's not think of Lady Gaga, let's think of someone, Madonna. Alright, let's think of Madonna. She's worked with Pharrell and all these other ones, and they go in, they produce the beats, and there's a guide track on there, and they'll have somebody singing what Madonna's supposed to be singing, and it'll sound almost the same like Madonna, but it won't be Madonna. Now Madonna, she's the artist. Now she's responsible for the stage show, she's responsible for the look, but the producer is responsible for the sound, and he produces what she sounds like, and it's ultimately his music or his vision that makes her multi-platinum selling. And that's why working for a record company, if you can be a producer and you work for a record company, then the record company sends out the A&R people, artist and repertoire people, to find someone that they think has the look and can perform well on stage, and people want to be that person and has a look, has a persona about them, and they then will say to the producer who is signed to the record company, right, I want you to work with this person and I want you to give me 10 #1s, and the producer then has to go out and do it. Now if you're an independent producer and you're using uncleared samples, the artist might not be particularly happy about that, because they're putting their career really in your hands, and if you're not clearing samples, then it can be a problem. As well, it goes to the royalties things, that your portion of royalties will be greater as a producer if you're using cleared samples than it will be if you have to clear a sample. Well, exactly. We are the A&R. Exactly, Rome. Yeah. Today, the producer is the A&R. Yeah, but you're aiming to get to that level, and that's where we're going to go, and that's where we're going to go together. So, going back to royalties. So we've got your publishing royalties, which is the money that you get when you sign to a publishing company. That's responsible for your music, and what they do is they then look out for people that infringe your music. So famous examples of copyright infringement: P Diddy or P Daddy or whatever his name is, copyright using the Police, Every Breath You Take, the guitar line of that. Same thing with what's his name, Vanilla Ice, yeah. When he ripped off Queen's Under Pressure bass line, that they then took from, I can't remember where they took it from now, just escapes me. But basically, those bass lines were sampled and guitar parts were sampled, and they have to clear the royalties for that. Now, if the publisher's doing the job right, they will look out for people that infringe that and will pursue them in court to actually get money from the use of your creativity for the notes you use. Then there's the other part of royalties, which is the recording contract. Now this is where a lot of artists get confused. They think that you get a recording contract, that's the be all and end all, and that's what you're after. Well, actually, no, it's not, guys. What you want is, most important thing is you want the publishing rights, because that means that you can sell the same song to a record company and record it several times with different record companies, and you'll make 2 or 3 times back the amount of money in royalties. What a record company is responsible for is putting out a recording of the song, or a song that you've recorded at a particular time in a particular studio. Okay, so if I'm again, I'm sort of reiterating something from an old scope, but if you sign to say Virgin and you have a song, let's say with the Police, Every Breath You Take, and you record that with say Virgin Records, and you release it in March, Virgin Records will own the copyright for the recorded work, that's the sound, okay, of that song, Every Breath You Take. But the Police, or the publishing company of the Police, will own the royalties or the recorded copyright work of the actual song. So, say you create a 2 or 3 album deal with Virgin that lasts 3 years. You record that song once with Virgin, great, they put out the work, the artist then gets 2 royalties. Gets a recorded royalty after all the expenses and things have been taken out from the record company, and gets the publishing rights for that. Okay, now say after 3 years you move over to say EMI Records and you re-record that song, Every Breath You Take, then you sell say 1,000,000 CDs of that, you will get the royalties from the 1,000,000 CDs from EMI, and you will also get royalties from the Virgin version of that. The songs might sound identical, that's right, publishing can get up to 50% right of that. It depends the kind of deal that you get. Sometimes you can get up to 70% of it, but yeah, normally 50 is kind of a ballpark figure of that when you're talking about recorded works and things, yeah. So if we take Rome's example of getting 50% right, then 2 lots of 50 would be the equivalent of say 100, okay? But if you don't have a publishing deal, which normally artists fall into the black hole really of that, where they sign a publishing deal at the same time that they sign with a recording deal, and they sign that to the same record company, then that's where they get stiffed, because the record company can do some creative accounting and basically the artist ends up getting very little of the work. On a recording, you would probably say, if you sell a CD for say $1 or a song for $1, you will probably get about anything from 5 cents to 10 cents on that. All the rest of that money goes towards paying for the actual studio time, the recording time of that, the marketing of that song, the advance that the record company will give to you. How that happens is normally when you've got a record contract, you know, you think, oh yeah, I signed a deal with say EMI, okay? So let's talk about Robbie Williams, a completely different genre altogether than hip-hop, but in general, Robbie Williams years ago signed a contract with EMI, and it was really big news because he got £1 million advance, and that £1 million was a real big deal because record companies don't give you £1 million. And what artists tend to do is they think, oh, I've got this £1 million, okay, and they don't realise that they have to give that money back to exactly, it's a loan, Rome. Don't spend all that advance money, it's a loan, exactly. But that loan doesn't come from that $1 that song is sold for. It comes out of that 5 to 10 cents that you make of that. So you think, oh yeah, I've got $1 and then I get 10 cents and that 10 cents goes in my bank account and that's my money. No. Out of that 10 cents, you have to pay back that $1 million or £1 million or whatever it is that you've had the advance from, and that's why you tend to get artists that will have a short-term career of about 5 years and then just disappear off the planet and end up sweeping floors or working in McDonald's or something like that. And that sadly is what happened to a lot of the famous soul singers or famous backing bands of Motown and things like that, where you had very famous guys that recorded on every Motown record going, and they've ended up with like next to nothing, not because they owed money, but just because that they didn't receive royalties because they got a wage for actually playing on those things. So it can, I've sort of flown off at a tangent there, but that's generally what happens to artists. They take a loan, spend it all, not realise that they have to give it back, have a short-term career, and then that's it. But that loan has to cover all your studio time, all your instruments, or all your food. It's your wage. If you're a smart artist, what you tend to do is the loan that you get forwarded to you, or the, you know, $10,000 or something, you go out and you invest in yourself. You go out and you buy equipment. You don't go blow it on a big car and a big house and stuff. No, you don't do that. Only idiots do that. Because then when your record contract ceases or is terminated or finishes and you've delivered the amount of albums, if you haven't made million platinum album, then you just spend all that money on that you spent on houses and things, all that gets ceased by the record company, so you don't end up with anything. Now, going back to investing in yourself, what you do is you go out and buy equipment. You go out and buy yourself a studio, and you record all your demos, all your work, everything to the studio, and you charge that back to the record company. Okay, I've got a studio, I've got all this gear, I write all my demos, you like that, and obviously you have to have demos that are good enough to actually be, you know, to sell. That's why you've got a lot of these, you know, Jay-Z, Kanye West's, Pharrell, all these others own their own studios and have all the best gear that you can get, because when they've made a beat, they've made a sample and resell it back to the record company. It gets a bit complicated, but when they sell that beat back, then the record company has to pay the studio, which is money to you directly, rather opposed to you giving it to somewhere else and then having it taken out for an advanced loan and things like that. As well, when it comes to the end of the contract, if you haven't sold enough bits of music, then you can resell all that gear. You can get rid of it. You may lose a bit, but at least you haven't blown it all. And if you're clever and you get some real choice good equipment, it will always, or most of the time, go up in value, because it does. What I mean by that is don't blow all your money on samples and stuff like that, which again comes back to what I was saying about creating your own samples. Because once, for example, if you buy royalty-free samples, once somebody's heard that sample, they don't want to be hearing it again in another tune. You know, they feel like, well, I've heard that already. You know, I've heard that sample. That's why that's why you've got crate digging. You know, it's about finding samples that no one else has used. And that's why guys spend hours and hours and hours crate digging. Otherwise, we'd just be sampling the same James Brown records all the time. So yeah, once you've invested in your own gear and things and your contract ceases, then you get at least a portion of that money back, and it doesn't get ceased by the record company. So say, for example, I got an MPC 2000 XL. I bought that for £300. I think it was about £270. I paid for that about 3 years ago. They're now selling on eBay for £600, which is about $800. So I spent about $425 on it, and it's now worth $800. That's almost 100%. That's, you know, almost 100% back that I've got from that. Fortunately, you know, I don't owe any record company or anyone any money or anything. But if I was to do that, I would actually be, what they say, quids up. I'd have more money that I could, you know, pay back, and I would be ending up with, you know, $375 in my pocket cleared, and the other $425 I would pay back to the record company if I owed them money. So I would have actually made money. I wouldn't have lost anything at all. So it's important that, you know, people understand that. So getting back to the royalties. So we've spoken about publishing royalties, we've spoken about record contract royalties and about the kind of monies that you expect to get from it. But then as a producer, there is another royalty on it. Now this is the key, guys, and even a lot of producers don't know that. Every time you produce something, you get a credit for, okay? As a producer, you'll get points, and those points are in royalties. So say if you get 2 points, they'll be worth, say, $1 or something like that, or 20 cents or something. But if, as a producer, you play a physical instrument, okay? So for example, I'm saying James Brown backing band, and I'm the producer. I'll get my royalties for producing this stuff. But then say I'm the drummer, I will get a royalties for being the drummer as well. Or I get a wage for actually playing the drums. So if you've ever gone into small studios or big studios even, sometimes you'll see the producer will actually play something. It won't be very much. It can be something as simple as a shaker or a bass line or something, but there will always be a little bit of his work in that record. So then he secures a royalty for or a credit for actually playing something. So you get the credit for producing it, and then you'll get an extra credit for actually playing on it. And that's where a lot of rock bands fall out about who writes what in music and how the royalties are split out. So normally if you get 4 guys in a band, the simplest way to do that, it works in the same way as a production team. So say we've got a bunch of producers, the easiest way to do that, or a bunch of beat makers that work under a collective thing. For example, like the Neptunes, you had 2 of them. You had Pharrell and the other guy, I can't remember his name, it just escapes me now. And what they would do is they would split the creative writing and royalties 50-50. That saves a lot of hassle. In bands it's the same thing. If you've got 4 of you or 5 of you, you just split it evenly. It saves a lot of problems. But then again, you get the problem of or the challenge to overcome, which is one person writes more of one song than another one. And if you haven't decided to split it equally in the beginning, then you start having the arguments of who wrote most of that song or who wrote that principal riff. And that's where it leads to problems, and bands always split. Teams of beat makers split up, and it becomes all messy, and you all end up in court, and you all end up blowing all your money before you've actually made anything. So the simplest way to do it is to actually split the work evenly if you're in a team. And with producers, going back to recording something on albums and things, they obviously get those 2 royalties or 3 royalties depending how much stuff they've actually done. As well, then there's the other version of the producer, which is what Rome was saying about we are the producer and the A&R. When it comes to selling your beats, there are 2 ways of actually making money if you're a producer. You either give complete exclusivity, the license, to the artist, and you create a beat. This is the level that we're all on at the moment, okay? I don't know any of us at the moment that are on the level where we are getting royalties on CDs. You'll get a credit on the back, it'll say, yeah, you know, Meek did this or whatever, or, you know, and people will come to you for that sound or something like that. But at the point is, we are selling our beats for, you know, $250, $300 a pop to an artist that's aspiring to make it big. And that comes back to the point of clearing your samples. If you clear your samples first and you sell that to somebody, so for example you go out and you buy a library of royalty-free samples on there, it means they give you rights to do whatever you want with the royalty of, you know, the hits, the horns or whatever it is. Then you can sell that to somebody without having a problem. But if you sell a beat to an artist, for example, $200 to $300, that artist is not going to be thinking, is that sample cleared? So unless you specifically state that in the contract, which what SIP was saying, and you make it blatantly clear, the artist will always come back to you, and it's more hassle than it's worth. So if you clear those samples, then it justifies you selling. If you use royalty-free samples, it justifies you selling that beat for $250, $300, and that's it. You can reuse those samples for wherever you want, but that particular
beat is sold. You've given it to somebody else. They own it. They can do whatever they want from it. You'll never see more than that $250, $300 for that beat. Now, if you don't clear samples, then you're not going to really be able to use that beat. Someone is really going to come down hard on you for trying to sell a beat for $200, $300. I mean, just... Yeah, yes, you can. That's what you can, Rome. That's what Sip was saying about get the artist to clear the beat and stuff. But you've got to think of how many artists. I mean, the level of artists that we're talking about is we're talking about people on the same level as us, where they're trying to make it. They're out there. They're still, they come to the park for inspiration. Perhaps some of them are not working in music full time. They're not going to be wanting to spend $300 on you putting together a beat and then paying another $10,000 on that beat with the hope that they're going to be famous from it. They're not going to do that. So the easiest way is to get royalty-free samples and mash them and chop them and do stuff, whatever. I mean, you can make them virtually unrecognisable and use those, because that way then you'll make your money. I mean, how I stand on samples about using royalty-free samples, if I'm not making my own, is I look at it as like stock photography, where you'll go out and spend, say, $80 on some royalty-free sample beats. Might be 200 loops, might be something like that. Those 200 loops, I look at it as, say, that's 200 beats I can make. 200 beats, say, at $200. 8,000. I think it's about, how much is that? 200 beats are $80,000, something like that. Is that right? Is that my maths right? Don't know. 2 times 20 is 2,000 times 8,000. Okay, $8,000 or something. So, if you sell one beat that you've made from one pack, then that will buy another pack of royalty beats, and you'll still have profit over if you don't count your time that you did to make it. So you can, with using royalty-free royalty-free samples, you can keep using those samples all the time, and they're in your back pocket basically, and it's like your, little bag of tools, little bag of tricks that you've got. And you can keep reusing those samples, and you can keep making money from those samples. Thanks, Rome, for the invite and the share on Twitter and stuff. And you can use those samples to keep making beats. So it's a good investment, our royalty-free samples. But obviously you want to be making your own stuff. But I'll probably do another scope later on. If not today, probably tomorrow or Wednesday. Yeah, no worries, Rome, anytime. I mean, we're a community, man. That's what we are. And if we stick together, we'll all come a long way. I've got lots to share and I've got lots to learn. Yeah, don't worry about it. People catch it on replay. Not everybody picks it up. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, as far as they're concerned, I'm a nobody. I've been very much in the background for many years and very out of sight. It's only now I'm sort of coming out. So in time, people will pick up on it. It takes time. It's all good. It's all part and part of sharing. But like I said earlier at the beginning of the scope, it's almost a therapy kind of thing, and it sort of helps me with Beatblock as well. Just by talking through, stuff like this, you sort of become inspired and things like that. Thanks, Rome. Thanks for that. Yeah, I'm just a humble guy, just trying to make it with the community and that kind of thing. It'll all work out for us. And the funny thing is, it's like what I said the other day on the We Do Beats on J Phil's scope was, it only takes one of us in that community, that 179 of us that there are at this point in time, to actually make it. And if one of us makes it, even years down the line, everybody will want to see, where did that person come from? So the more people we invite to that community, the more chances we are to actually make it big. And then people will start to look out and seek out, where did this person come from, and we'll all be connected, and they'll all seek out, you know, how it all is. You look at Jeff Mills and all these others when they all started with Chicago House, and same thing with hip hop and stuff, Public Enemy and all these others. You know, you seek out, you go look in the background to see where these guys came from, who else was around at that point in time, who are these guys, and yeah, it helps you. You know, it'll all come up. So all these scopes, although the room isn't full right now, doesn't matter. You know, one day it may be, maybe not. You know, I'm just enjoying it. I'm just getting out there, and I'm glad I'm sharing it with you. You know, so at least I can do. You know, I watch your scopes as well, and I enjoy your scopes, so it's cool. That's right. It's history. It's history in the making. You know, that's what we're doing. We're making history. The fact that you're on here, you're in the right place at the right time. You know, using, hey Dana, hello, using your time, you know, to get inspiration. You know, I hope I can sort of inspire you, you know, a little bit, even if it's reiterating stuff you already know. Yeah, no worries, Rome. Yeah, Dana, I'm just talking about music royalties and in general, and just talking about music business and stuff. You know, yeah, it's thanks, Rome. Yeah, I'm glad I'm inspiring you, man. You know, it's good. You know, it inspires me to inspire you. Yeah, it's all fun. Anyway, guys, I'm gonna get off. It's getting a little bit chilly now. I'm gonna go see if I can. Yeah, it's all a great reminder. You know, oh, thanks, Dana. Thanks for the hearts. I'm gonna go back home, have a coffee, see if my juices start flowing. Might play a little bit of jazz. I have to keep practicing my keyboard music reading stuff, and well, I have to go now. I'm cold. I'll probably be back on a little bit later. What did you have for dinner? What did you have for your dinner, Dana? Oh, heart's lovely. Laters, bro. Laters, Rome. But yeah, I've got to go, Dana. You know, I'm getting really cold now. But yeah, I'll catch up with you guys a little bit later anyway. And remember, practice, practice, practice. Think about your samples, create your samples. I'll do a scope about sound design and things like that in the next few days, and sort of see if we can get some inspiration about you know, creating some samples of our own and how we can use it. Alright guys, see you later, bye.